and Kennedy is going to be on Outnumbered shortly, but just not yet.
Not yet.
Am I right, Kennedy?
Yeah, that's right. If I went on Outnumbered like this, I'd get a couple of phone calls.
No hats.
No hats.
No
sweats.
No sweats?
No sweats.
Well, that's not in the color wheel?
It's definitely not in the color wheel.
Terry cloth?
I got a talking to about the sweatshirt that I wore on Will Kane and Jimmy Fallon's show. But it was red, white, and blue. It's this great, like, patriotic sweatshirt. And I was like, oh, I thought because it was patriotic. And they're like, no, thank you.
Who talks to you or something like that?
I can't say.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm already in enough trouble.
All right, let's get to the big three.
Number 3.
And this sort of bizarre idea that Generation Z is going to carry us forward into a conservative future, I'm not seeing the evidence for that as a general matter. Mamdani being a perfect encapsulation of this.
Ben Shapiro weighing in. 3 races we are watching. 5 days to go. New Jersey governor's race, Virginia governor's race, and New York City mayoral race. As the leading candidate's mom, well, we're going to hear from her.
Number 2.
Like for 29 days, understand, Donald Trump has spent more time talking to Hamas and the Chinese Communist Party than he has in talking to Democrats to end the Trump shutdown.
Trump shutdown it doesn't even ring.
Doesn't have the same ring as Schumer shutdown, Brian.
Yeah, like that's an alliteration, don't you think? Schumer shutdown?
Yeah, it rolls off the tongue, sadly.
Shutdown day 30 and tempers are flaring. Attention, Chuck, get the message. Republicans aren't caving to the extortion. We'll see what happens because some people not in leadership are beginning to talk.
Number 1.
How soon do you think you could sign a trade deal with China?
Well, I think pretty soon. We have not too many major stumbling blocks. We have a deal.
President Trump, it says, out of 10, his meeting with China was a 12. We're going to give you the details as he heads home to hand out Halloween candy, legitimately, with Melania today.
Adorable.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Kennedy, your thoughts about the China deal? Were you on the team? Were you on with Treasury trying to work out the details of
Yes.
this?
I'm known as an informal advisor to the administration.
How informal? You can dress informal?
Yeah. I can dress informal. No one really takes my calls. Like, I have big ideas.
Right.
Like, I'm an idea gal.
Right.
And I'm just waiting for them to really embrace that.
And so I would say informal is 100% accurate.
It's less formal than being Treasury Secretary, certainly.
Right. You know what?
I'm not Steve Witkoff.
Right. You haven't spent your life in real estate and then one tried to bring Middle East peace. Have you spent any time in real estate?
Okay, I've bought and sold homes.
Good enough.
I feel like that's a great start.
Were they your homes?
Yes. Okay. Yes, they were. I do not have a real estate license, but I'm a libertarian. I think that society is over-licensed.
All right. Is that what you're going to go with when the lawsuits come in? All right. I'm just staying true to my school, Judge. That's right. You're a witness.
Yeah. Free speech and the Fed, Judge. Am I right? Taxation is theft. Who's with me?
And that's true. If you can win over the general audience instead of the jury, a lot of people focus on the jury on these trials. I want the gallery.
Yeah, exactly.
I want the gallery.
Yes.
You up top there. I was found guilty, but the audience loved me.
They ate it up.
Yeah, they loved it. Your job is as a defendant. Do you think your job is to entertain those who come?
I think if you do it properly, yes. I think it's more comprehensive than people like to think going into the gambit.
Right.
But yeah, when you can cook with gas on all cylinders, I say that's a victory regardless of the outcome.
Right. I think too many people focus on the final score.
Yeah. What happened to life's a journey, not a destination?
Right. You can't have it both ways.
Well,
you could, but it's better.
I tell myself to ease the pain.
Exactly. So as we get into you didn't get up in the middle of the night like I did. And I got a chance to see the before game and after game action in the Chinese deal.
Oh, wow.
I find it unbelievable that some people think this trip wasn't unbelievably successful. I don't even know if we have the soundbite, but Chuck Schumer said last night, this trip has been a real dud. You're right, except for those dumb trade deals that keep getting in the way, except for the rare earth deal that you got with Malaysia, especially with that bonding with the prime minister. What a waste of time of Japan, who also promised to bolster up their defense, which alleviates a lot of the pressure on us, and invest $550 billion with us. Oh, and the signing of that trade deal with South Korea, that's really going to come back to haunt us, as we also agree to let them buy a nuclear submarine from us while we make it here. So then he goes and meets with President Xi. And I'm going to bring you to something you're not going to hear all day. The attitude going in. You know, Trump always says, he's a good friend of mine, right? So I guess President Xi had an opportunity to say, not so friendly, or we don't get along. I look forward to doing something good.
Yeah, or like Mariah Carey when she's asked about J-Lo, and she goes, I don't think we've ever even met. And J-Lo's like, Mariah, we have hung out together. Like, we've been in the same recording studio. I've met you 7 or 8 times. And Mariah's like, yeah, still, I've heard of her.
Yeah, that is the perfect analogy.
Yeah.
I mean, and a lot of people, I think, in Chinese would make that analogy, but I have to wait for the translation, or so I'd roll the soundbite in. I'm so glad you gave it to me. This is President Xi before he went in, just to give you an idea of the tone. Now, compare this to the meeting in Alaska when Joe Biden took over. You basically had his people meet with the Chinese people who berated America for our imperialistic, belligerent ways. Really. And then Anthony Blinken sat there and goes, this isn't going well. And then the defense secretary tried to get his counterpart on the phone for 18 months. Nothing. And then you have this.
That's embarrassing.
President Trump, it is a great pleasure for me as well to meet you. Since your re-election, we have spoken on the phone 3 times, exchanged several letters, and stayed in close contact. And our joint guidance, China-US relations have remained stable on the whole. Given our different national conditions, we do not always see eye to eye with each other, and it is normal for the 2 leading economies of the world to have frictions now and then. And in the face of winds, waves, and challenges, you and I, at the helm of China-US relations, should stay the right course and ensure the steady sailing forward of the giant ship of China-US relations.
Ooh,
good start, right?
Very, very impressive speech. Also, that is as close to groveling as you are going to hear.
Thank you.
From a Chinese leader.
Deferential.
Yes.
And so, the Chinese People's Chinese People's Daily newspaper, which when they want to send us a message, you read that because it's obviously in English, number one. Number two is when they usually say things that is policy of the government. And the first 3 headlines were all positive. And just to give you a more of an idea, let's listen, cut 11.
Mr. President, I'm ready to continue working with you to build a solid foundation for China-US relations and create a sound atmosphere for the development of both countries.
So they went ahead and bought soybeans. It's going to start right away. They went ahead and they're starting to say for a year, we're not going to touch rare earth. It gives us a year to get some other places to get it.
Australia, Greenland.
Yeah. We're already doing it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, one thing the president's
Malaysia.
done is getting deals. The problem is, I know we could be drilling, we could be mining, we could be refining here, but environmentalists, like in places like Minnesota, have stopped it. So the president's trying to get that done, but at the same time, going to those places you just mentioned, I think Argentina would be next, to start doing rare earth deals to get past it. If we could get past rare earth and pharmaceuticals with China, we'd almost be free of them and be freer to even drive a tougher deal.
And it just goes to show you that China is worried about their economy, and they know they need access to the American market. They need American consumers to buy their products, fill up Walmart shelves. We love a bargain. We love buying stuff. We love going on Amazon and getting a few things here and there. We love the dopamine hit. That's never going away. No matter what happens with the U.S. economy, you will always have consumers eager to alleviate their anxiety with a little purchase here and there, Brian.
So the president comes back with those trade deals, as I mentioned, and Hakeem Jeffries says, well, he shouldn't have left. On what planet should he not have left? This impacts everybody.
If Hamas and the Chinese Communist Party are being more rational and conversational than Democrats, then I think that's an indictment of Hakeem Jeffries and his leadership, as opposed to the president.
Right. We don't always agree. We're agreeing a lot now. Does it worry you? I mean, because my tone is being matched by your tone.
I knew you were going to come around to my side.
Oh, so okay.
I knew you'd be
I've changed.
Impressed by my informal advisorship, and you'd want to get on
Treasury.
On the K train. Which I don't blame you.
The reason why you got that job is the Mariah Carey comparison.
That's right.
That analogy is why Besson calls your name.
It's non-traditional, but I paint a picture, Brian.
Yes, you paint a picture. By the way, Mariah Carey, not a good painter.
She is not.
So here's the headline.
Even an abstract.
Do you tell me if this is a good headline or not? And no pressure.
Wow, now I feel pressure.
She says ready to work with Trump to build solid foundation for bilateral ties. Not trying to reverse it and say she lets Donald Trump know exactly what it's going to take to restore diplomatic. That's what I'm used to. I go to this once a week because I'm lonely and no one calls.
And you don't really have much to do during the day.
Right, except for this. China unveils outcomes of the China-U.S. economic trade talks. China's industrial upgrading conducive to global growth. So everything is a positive, interesting. Their mini Wall Street Journal. If they weren't happy with that, they would have used that to say, well, President Xi had a different tone in that room as opposed to what they're saying in their
No, they would be
handpicked
happy
press.
to contradict it. And, you know, Donald Trump has figured out you cannot humiliate and browbeat
Everybody.
Yeah, it doesn't work with everyone.
Right.
And, you know, it's like Joe Biden couldn't even get access.
Right. It only works with Rosie O'Donnell. It forced her out of the country.
It
right?
did.
I mean.
But to your ancestral home,
of Ireland.
How do you feel about that, Brian?
Can't go until she leaves.
That's what I've heard you say.
Back in a moment.
Tonight, the Dodgers are hosting Game 5. By winning last night, the Blue Jays guaranteed a return to Toronto and a Game 6 or possibly even a Game 7, which is...
6-7!
All right, get them. I should have known better. Get those kids out of here, will you? By the way, according to dictionary.com, the word of the year for 2025, they've already decided, is 6-7.
6-7!
I said out of here with that!
Come on, guys, let's go.
Enough of it.
So, Kenny, you always can help me with pop culture.
I have no idea. I've read about it. My children don't say it. It means nothing. It's something where you can apply your own meaning. So some people have applied a filthy meaning, and others just say it because they know it gets a rise out of the elders.
Do you guys know? Allison?
No, I agree completely with Kenny. I mean, mine 5-year-olds are at home doing it because they're hearing the older kids do it. They have no idea what it is. But anytime they hear 6-7, they're doing the same thing. It's just entertaining.
You have no idea.
Pete hangs out with kids. I saw him at middle school the other day.
That's not true.
It's like an anti-meme at this point. It's funny because it's not funny, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
This explains why Jimmy Kimmel was doing it.
Yeah,
right?
he's not funny anymore.
I heard that. So, I mean, by the way, do you follow baseball?
Yes.
Your thoughts?
I'm disgusted at the World Series.
Because you're Los Angeles. You're Los Angeles?
No, I've been a Yankees fan since I was in high school.
Oh, okay.
Growing up in Portland,
But
we had
have
a minor
house
league team. So it's like, who do you like? I did not like the Mariners. I respect them. I had fun going to Mariners games when I lived in Seattle, but I am a Yankees fan. And so seeing our two foes compete against each other, I wish they could both lose. But I had predicted that Toronto was going to do horribly and would not win one game because Los Angeles looked so good going into the series. And they have, for lack of a better term, pooped the bed.
Can I just also...
I hate to use an Amber Heardism, but I have no choice here, Brian.
I just remember that. That's a trial you won't let go of. It really changed your life, right?
Did,
you can't.
Yes. I recalibrated with that trial.
You were spiraling until the trial came across.
Found myself.
Like I found myself. This guy, I'm definitely better than that woman, right? Is that what you're thinking? So you are.
Well, I've never done that. Done a lot of stuff. Not that.
So, I thought it was just really interesting. This Mandami guy. Like, it's why once in a while you go, this old tape popped up.
You're saying his name wrong. Are you doing that on purpose? Like George H.W. Bush used to call him Mario Cuomo just to make him mad. Mom Donnie, not Mom Dommy, not Mommy Dommy.
So I want
not
you to
Mondavi.
So you want to know how he became what he became. We know his mom's on the record. A tape last night I just saw with Laura that a mom's on the record saying that her son is not an American. He's more of a Ugandan Indian. That he doesn't really get along here in America. He's not that type of person.
Solid.
That hurts, yeah. And I listened to the person that raised him, the dad, the guy at Columbia. Listen to this, cut 26.
America is the genesis of what we call settler colonialism. Abraham Lincoln generalized the solution of reservations. They herded American Indians into separate territories. For the Nazis, this was the inspiration. Hitler realized two things. One, that genocide was doable.
And by the way, everyone knows Hitler loved Lincoln.
Just a big Lincoln fan.
So this is the guy
Nietzsche.
raising.
Yeah, he was all in on Lincoln. He
So
was just used to walk around going, full score, I'm the Führer, yeah. It's like, what a flimsy ding-dong.
just hates America. I'll reach into
Hates
anything.
America, yeah.
And
And
he's-
I will take disparate points and connect them. What intellectual laziness with no bridge, no evidence, no data. It's like, wow, okay, good for you.
So how is he winning? You live in New York City. I
Because
don't.
the
You
other-
understand better.
The other candidates and the people I talk to, I've only talked to a couple people who are actually voting for Mamdani. And they were excited by his Instagram presence and his TikTok videos. And they're like, ooh, he's so cool. Like, he's so good at explaining things. And again, you have more intellectual laziness because they don't indulge the possibility of unintended consequences. And, you know, there are so many flaws with socialism, but the biggest being that it is a zero-sum enterprise, meaning they don't believe that wealth can be created and regenerated. They believe that wealth is zero-sum, that there is just one pie. And the billionaires take all the pieces of the pie and everyone else is left with crumbs. And that's what they sell. And that is not economics. That is not how the world works. Wealth creates wealth. It also creates jobs and innovation and a tax base. So when you invite all of that to leave, you cannot pay for the stuff that you have promised the people who bought into your zero-sum nonsense.
I totally disagree. I'm only kidding. That was a wonderful explanation.
Thank you.
Again, you can use that outnumbered in 90 minutes.
Consider it done,
All right.
Brian.
All right, thanks. I enjoyed our time together.
As did I.
I think America's a better place because of it.
I love America.
You're served, Bruce Blakeman. You're next. Back in a moment. Let's bring in Marc Thiessen. Marc, what do you think?
Well, first of all, that going back to that Hakeem Jeffries quote about how he's spending more time negotiating with Hamas and Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party than he is with Democrats, they're more reasonable. Literally, that doesn't say what you think it says. If he can get a deal with Hamas, but he can't get a deal with Hakeem Jeffries, there's something wrong with Hakeem Jeffries.
That he's bringing that up. And I love when
that they can't. They won't negotiate. It's like, you know, they're negotiating with terrorists. Like Trump actually can negotiate with terrorists when they're willing to negotiate.
Senator Schumer said, "Well, this trip has been a dud." What's he looking at? I mean, it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard him say, and he said a lot of dumb things.
Yeah, I mean, the Democrats are in a world of hurt right now. They are buffeted on either side by Trump's juggernaut on the right and Mamdani's insurgency on the left, and they don't know what to do. They are unable to. They have no leverage except this shutdown, and it's not leverage that they think it is. Trump is standing there saying, "No, we'll continue to fund the government at Biden levels. We're not even asking for any riders or policy riders or any changes." And they're saying, "No, we're going to put all the TSA workers out of work. We're going to put all the air traffic controllers out of work. We're going to make your life miserable in order to continue Biden's COVID spending." That's their position. That's not sustainable. And it's just they ought to just pull the Band-Aid off and get it done and capitulate now, because it's just going to be more painful down the line.
It is, and it's causing a lot of people pain outside the government because they're still getting paid. In terms of what China's agreed to, the farmers got to be happy when the Treasury Secretary said this, cut 13.
Chinese have agreed to buy 12 million metric tons of soybeans during this season. Right now. And then for the next 3 years, they're going to be buying a minimum of 25 million metric tons per annum for the next 3 years.
So, and this ship's already, according to Senator Marshall, already steaming our direction in order to pick them up. That's big.
That's great. That's great. I mean, look, Donald Trump is standing astride the world. He's bringing peace to the Middle East. He brought peace between Cambodia and Thailand. He's tightening the screws on Vladimir Putin while negotiating with his strategic partner Xi Jinping. He's just leading a masterclass in how to run the world. And the Democrats are sitting here in Washington. Literally, they can't even make the government function. It's quite a spectacle.
Through translation, of course, before this whole thing started, they both talked. They both had a statement. The president winged his, and it seems like President Xi was very deliberate when he made his remarks. And here he is, through an interpreter, talking about the tone of the meeting. Cut 10.
President Trump, it is a great pleasure for me as well to meet you. Since your re-election, we have spoken on the phone 3 times, exchanged several letters, and stayed in close contact. And our joint guidance, China-US relations have remained stable on the whole. Given our different national conditions, we do not always see eye to eye with each other, and it is normal for the 2 leading economies of the world to have frictions now and then. And in the face of winds, waves, and challenges, you and I, at the helm of China-US relations, should stay the right course and ensure the steady sailing forward of the giant ship of China-US relations.
So what about that tone?
I think it's a great tone, and it's what China needs us more than we need China. I mean, if you look at their situation, they're in a lot of trouble. They're facing a huge demographic collapse. Thanks to the one-child policy, where they're going to very soon, within a few years, they're going to be selling more adult diapers than baby diapers in China. If that doesn't say something to you, their economy is in trouble. Their growth is stagnating. They've got a lot of problems out there. So they need a stable, steady economic relationship with the United States, and Trump is doing a very good job of holding out what he always does. He does this when he's negotiating with terrorists, when he's negotiating with foreign countries, when he's negotiating with Democrats. He dares you to follow him up to the top of the escalation ladder, but offers you a path to negotiated settlement. And the smart people out there take the path of negotiation. The dumb people don't. Right, and so Xi Jinping is joining him on the path of negotiation. The Iranians stupidly did not do that, or else they wouldn't have been bombed. And Vladimir Putin is now learning that that's a mistake as well, and so is Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer. When he goes up the escalation ladder, you're never going to beat him to the top of the escalation ladder. And take the path of negotiation.
So how do you feel about the nuclear testing coming back?
I think it's great. I mean, look, the reality is that we need to have a strong nuclear deterrent, and he's sending a message that we are going to. It's also, it's just a nice reminder when you have people like Vladimir Putin out there sort of rattling the nuclear saber. Set up a nuclear weapon or two to test, and that'll remind him that he's not the only one with those weapons.
Right. So when we look over at Ukraine. The president said that didn't. He says he's committed to working with us to bring the war to an end. He could do that in a second, as you know, but he's got an alliance with Russia. Don't pretend that he doesn't. But in terms of what Ukraine and Russia in particular, it looks like Ukraine has knocked out 20% of Russia's energy sector, and they've engineered their own long-range rocket. And the Storm Shadow could be coming from Germany.
Yeah. So yes. So the way it should be clear now to Trump, and I think it is, that Putin has no intention of ending this war voluntarily. So he's going to have to be coerced. And so the question is, how do you tighten the screws on him in a way that brings him to the negotiating table? Because the end game is what it was from the very beginning, which is to force Putin to stop the war on current lines, right? The Ukrainians have accepted. We will accept current lines in a negotiated settlement. And it's Putin who's refusing to do that. So what Trump is very successfully doing with these sanctions is putting the squeeze on Russia economically. India has agreed to stop buying Russian oil. oil. Apparently, China now, because of these sanctions, is suspending purchases of Russian oil. Those are their two biggest purchasers. And on the other side, the Ukrainians are squeezing them with these drone strikes that have taken out some of their energy infrastructure. But you could really damage the energy infrastructure and also their drone factories and other things if we allow them to use some Tomahawk missiles. Because what the Tomahawks do that the drones and the Ukrainian missiles don't do is they allow you to deliver a heavier payload with greater range.
So you want to see them delivered? You want to see the Tomahawks?
Absolutely. And look, it's not escalation because Putin is using cruise missiles against Ukraine. So it's a response in kind. He can't claim that that's escalation. If he wasn't using cruise missiles against Ukraine, then he could complain about us giving cruise missiles to the Ukrainians to use. But how can you complain about being hit by cruise missiles if you're firing cruise missiles every day at the Ukrainians?
Well, just quick.
And unlike Russia, the Ukrainians wouldn't be firing them at residential neighborhoods.
Yes, that's what they aim for. So let's talk about Israel and Gaza. You know, we have Jared and Steve Woodcock heading back over there. The Secretary of State's been there. The Vice President's been there. They're not taking their hands off the wheel. But yesterday, Israel resumed the ceasefire after sending off rockets to kill dozens of Hamas commanders who fired anti-tank missiles and conducted sniper fire over in Rafah. And guess where they jumped out of? Tunnels. So they quickly went back to the ceasefire. But Netanyahu says we're not going to be patsies.
No, exactly right. Look, the ceasefire is still in place, and it can be suspended briefly if Hamas is not going to be allowed to break the ceasefire unilaterally and not have the consequences of it. So Israel is not going to break the ceasefire for the sake of taking out Hamas leaders unless they're fired on. So I mean that's perfectly reasonable.
I hear you. And lastly, Jack Ciattarelli's now closed this race to 2 points in New Jersey. Are you a believer that an upset's in the making?
Chris Christie won that state twice, and it's entirely possible. I never get my hopes up about New Jersey, but I like to be pleasantly surprised.
So, I mean, we'll see. There'll be a town hall tonight, and we'll see what kind of reception he gets. Also, the fact that he's got 13 Democratic mayors, I think is pretty impressive, don't you think?
Absolutely. And look, I think the polls are closing in New York, tightening in New York too. I don't think it's off the table that Mamdani could lose. So he's the favorite, but it's not done yet. And New York always closes late. And think about it: if you're going to hold your nose and vote for Andrew Cuomo, you're going to make that decision at the last.
I know. Believe me, the day I heard Marc Thiessen hoping Cuomo will win, and I thought I'd have the wrong show on, or someone was imitating it was AI imitating your voice. But you're hoping Cuomo pulls it off. But he's still 10 points.
For the sleazeball, it's important.
Right. Here you go. Finally, just on Virginia. Democrats are looking to win back the Latino vote. That's going to be their focus, and that's why they're bringing out Senator Ruben Gallego over to North Virginia. He thinks he has the secret. I think that Abigail Spanberger, they thought that she was going to be like a vice presidential contender. She has underperformed big time.
Yeah, she has, and she's being dragged by her attorney general candidate. Who, by the way, if you're Hispanic and Jason Miyares is a great candidate. Pull the lever for him and pull the lever for Winston Sears too. Not the guy who wants to assassinate his political rivals.
I understand. Marc Thiessen, thanks so much.
Take care.
I thought it was an amazing meeting. He's a great leader of a very powerful, very strong country, China. And what can I say? We have, it was an outstanding group of decisions, I think, that was made. A lot of decisions were made, too. There wasn't too much left out there. And we've come to conclusion on many very important points.
And President Xi, before he went in, was very magnanimous. And of course, I'm looking for anything because they've blown up on us in the past. I remember Alaska. President Xi wasn't there, but his higher-ups were there, and they just blasted Anthony Blinken, Biden's people in the past. And we've had problems, and we watched the eruption 2 weeks ago, and out of nowhere, they came out and said, we are suspending rare earth sales to America and around the world. So I didn't know what to expect, but I could not believe that it seemed like President Xi, in an understated way compared to Trump, was saying the same thing. Here's a little of what President Xi said through a translator. Cut 12.
Mr. President, you care a lot about world peace. And you're very enthusiastic about settling various regional hotspot issues. I appreciate your great contribution to the recent conclusion of the Gaza ceasefire agreement. During your visit to Malaysia, you witnessed the signing of the Joint Declaration on Peace along the Cambodia-Thailand border, to which you had provided input. China's been helping in our own way Cambodia and Thailand properly settle their border disputes, and we have also been promoting peace talks to resolve other hotspot issues.
And he went on to say, and they did say during the meeting they'll help resolve the Ukraine conflict, and of course they are in total control, almost total control of that. Vladimir Putin would have to listen to him if he said, wind it down, be done. And there's just a lot of progress was made in a more positive way. And I just hope we got the red flag, which is we have to be in control of our own rare earth and then pharmaceuticals too. Let's bring in Chris McGuire, former National Security Technology and National Security's Deputy Senior Editor, former State Department Senior Advisor for Critical and Emerging Technology. Chris, welcome. I don't want to put words in your mouth or skew your thinking. I don't think it's possible anyway. But I see a lot of positives come out of this meeting. And what about you?
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for having me, Brian. Yeah, I mean, look, I think this is a kind of short-term, in some ways, freeze for freeze. I think that it's definitely good that the Chinese are not implementing their rare earth controls, which it really should be emphasized how enormous of an escalation that was and how out of proportion that action was to anything the United States has done.
And by the way, where did it come from? Well, I mean, that just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I think it came. I mean, I think it came from Chinese leadership, and it was an effort to kind of coerce the United States and show us that they have enormous control over us and deter us from taking any future action against China, which is actually very, very scary and dangerous, and something I think the administration is going to have to work hard in the future to make sure that China knows that they don't have the ability to coerce us. But the fact that they rolled it back is positive. I don't think it addressed, the long-term systemic challenges in the relationship, but also I don't think those are things that are fundamentally addressable. I don't think that China is going to be convinced to, stop IP theft or change their political system, and which I think are many of the barriers that prevent things like Chinese investment in the United States from being something that we can support.
Farmers right away are going to feel the benefit. I mean, if they're not going to send ships, then the whole thing's going to fall apart. But evidently, they've already, according to Senator Marshall, they're already sending ships to pick up soybeans. And it looks as though they've already committed to a number of a purchase, and that could save our farmers this year right away. So that is tangible.
So I think the soybean purchases are good. It's good that we got that back in track. It's good that we kind of rolled back the rare earths. The things that the administration, gave the Chinese were 10% reduction in tariffs for fentanyl cooperation, which again is a good thing. It's good to have the Chinese actually working on that. We'll see if they actually follow through with it. Suspension of reciprocal port fees, and then the walk back of the 50% rule on export controls. I think the big thing that the Chinese got here is the perception that there will be a suspension of future activity from the United States to push back on China. If the deal is just kind of as negotiated here, I think that can be quite strong because and if the United States can continue to take the actions we need to protect ourselves from kind of Chinese coercive action. So I think to evaluate this, it really is important to look through what the administration does in the coming kind of days, weeks, and months. There are positives here that are good. It is important to get the rare earth controls off the book, and I think the administration has taken a lot of productive action to actually realize this is something that needs to be fixed. And there's actual motivation and energy behind investing in the areas that could fix that, from kind of materials to batteries to magnets. Like, we really need self-sufficient supply chains here. So action to do that and buying time to do that is good. I think that we just also have to make sure that we don't kind of take our foot off the gas generally in the interim.
Right. This is why I don't change my trust level, and nor would you ever, or should Trump ever, anybody, any administration. Don't be like, hey, I trust the Chinese now. You can't be that naive. All I look at is, from their perspective, what good would it be to alienate Trump knowing he's going to be there over 3 years? Knowing that he's not afraid to take bold, unpredictable action, knowing that he's already assessed that China would be formidable and that we're trying to upgrade our military, trying to be free of rare earth. So we're not sitting on the sidelines pretending as if it is 1980 and we can bring them into the world markets. So it's in their interest not to alienate Trump. If it was 2019 again, and they maybe thought that he wasn't going to get elected and he had other issues, and the next thing you know, he'd hit by the pandemic, I'd be in the camp, well, we can't trust them. They're probably not going to follow through. I think it's in their interest to follow through on this stuff. Am I wrong?
100%. And I think the administration really realizes that, and they communicated this to the Chinese, that the United States has huge levers over China, that if China thinks they can escalate and really kind of push us to do their bidding, if the United States were to cut off, China from the element of the Chinese financial sanctions from US dollars, or elements of the Chinese technology ecosystem from semiconductors that are made with US chips or US tooling, that would have enormous impacts on the entire Chinese economy. There are things that we could do that would really, really damage them. And I think that, Secretary Bessent, Ambassador Greer, the president himself definitely emphasized that to the Chinese. I think it's something that we just have to continue to emphasize, because the Chinese really have to realize it. But it's absolutely true. It's not in their interest to go down this road, because the administration absolutely has bullets that they could fire that would be way more painful on the Chinese side.
Chris, at a different time, a different administration, different party, they'd be like, if I can get the Chinese to burn less coal, if I can get them to use more windmills to get them closer to the Paris climate change, that would be a win. Aren't you glad and somewhat relieved that the green fever has broken and we could focus on tangible things that affect the American people?
Yeah, I think that the perception that China is going to be with us on any of these areas is really kind of smoke and mirrors, right? Even on green energy, obviously, that's an area where there was a bunch of push. On the same time, like, what were the Chinese doing? They were actually trying to steal the entire kind of green technology industry away from us and away from the West, and kind of use that as a force to coerce the world.
And they make most of the solar panels in the world too.
Exactly, right? And then that's now plays into some of our concerns on, for instance, like EV batteries, right? Like, they're all made in China. They have dominance over that supply chain. I think we have to be really clear-eyed about the challenge here, even in the areas where there are pushes to cooperate. The kind of best path is to have the self-sufficiency, which then I think gives us a lot more leverage in any conversations. I think being more clear-eyed about that and being more kind of transactional in this is probably the right approach, because that's how the Chinese are approaching it. So it's absolutely the way that we should approach it too.
So they say the two teams. Go ahead.
Good.
They said they reached a basic consensus and we're ready to continue to work. They want to see something signed, right? Whether they call it phase one or not, get something signed. We want a contract to live up to on both sides. And then we could, instead of saying, well, you said this and you said that, and we thought we had agreement and we didn't, let's just get this thing done. And I wonder how close that is. I hope we're not going to have to wait till April until they meet again.
Yeah, we'll see. I think we will be able to see pretty quickly in seeing Chinese soybean purchases, also seeing like Chinese actually delivery of rare earths. Like I think there's been Chinese magnets that were delivered, but there's actually a lot of speculation that the actual underlying materials they haven't followed through on. So if we actually start to see supply chains actually open up and not just empty promises, right, I think that would be good. And we'll see that in the data relatively soon. But that would be positive. The one thing I just also want to mention that the administration, really held the line on that was really important was there was a lot of speculation on advanced chips that there was a potential trade for the most advanced, AI chips in exchange for some of these things like soybean purchases. And I think the administration correctly realized that was not in our interest. That first of all, they had the leverage to get the Chinese to resume soybean purchases and do fentanyl cooperation and other things without giving up our most advanced technologies. And second of all, that there's a really big risk in sharing those technologies and that there's no way for the Chinese to indigenize. So the administration absolutely gets a lot of credit for not giving that up in this. And I think Trump was clear that actually like Blackwell chips didn't come up. Which is good. I think that's not something that we should be sharing or cooperating with the Chinese, especially given the military applications.
So, Chris, let's talk about your column we wrote in the Free Press, and you talked about the car industry. What risks do we have with our car industry? Number one, and by all reports, whether they pirated it or not, they put together a heck of an electric car. And whether their labor costs are low, it's extremely affordable. And both Europe and America is really wary about them flooding us. And Ford said basically, or we could be out of the car business from what they saw when they visited the manufacturing. I'm talking about, I think Farley said that last couple of weeks ago. So what's your biggest worry?
Yeah, I think that there's a huge worry that if we actually basically let the Chinese auto industry into the United States, that it's just not going to be compatible with the United States, because the Chinese economic model, that ultimately they would subsidize their vehicles to the point where they would drive us out of business. And whether that's because we allow imports from China, which fortunately, we don't, due to both some of the regulatory blocks, but also the very high tariffs, also imports from other countries, or investment here. And I think there's some concern that what the Chinese are pushing, what they were pushing on the administration as part of this deal, and I think which the administration wisely rejected, was a deal of we'll promise you huge investment in America, right? And you can, all the words that sound great, shovel-ready jobs, very large numbers of dollars, and build plants. But those plants are ultimately kind of ways to push out critical U.S. industry. If we do get big BYD factories in the U.S., eventually those will destroy the Ford and GM factories that we have here.
It's true. Here is Howard Lutnick that you referred to in your column. This is what he said when asked about it.
Let's say China comes in and they say, okay, we're going to build stuff in the United States. We want to build automobile companies, our automobiles in the United States. Well, that will kill our car industry. They're all over Bahamas and Mexico. So would you allow that?
No, that's what I call an Amy Winehouse, which is no, no, no. So we're not going to have Chinese companies beating up our companies. That's just not going to happen. You need to build in America. You need to build cars in America. They're all coming back. You saw those manufacturing jobs. They're all coming back. We spoke to the big three. You see semiconductors coming back. This is all, pharmaceuticals are going to come back. Manufacturing is going to come back to America. But you are completely correct. We've got to watch ourselves with the Chinese, because the Chinese are dumpers. What they do is they try to make their industries crush ours so they can have control of us. And that's what they've done under the Biden administration, under the Obama administration, and all the way back to the Clinton administration. It's got to end. And fortunately, Donald Trump has our back, and he's going to protect America and bring those manufacturing jobs back to America.
Chris, I see you nodding. You think we get it, right? You think these guys get it?
Yeah. I do. And I was told from folks that the Chinese had been pushing these investment deals in the U.S. For some time, and saying, hey, actually, they want rollback from we have the CFIUS, the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, that reviews these for national security, and they basically want to work around that and just get these big deals. And the administration said no. I think Secretary Lutnick was very, very clear in that. Secretary Bessent also is very clear. This is not who oversees the CFIUS body as well as his capacity as Treasury Secretary, was very clear this is not in our interest. And I think the president gets very much that this is not in our interest. So it's good that this is not part of the deal, and it's focused more on other areas.
Chris, you know what I'm struck by in researching the president's trip ahead of time, especially? No one lets go of the past. I mean, there's a theory out there, and it's a solid one, that China's trying to poison us with fentanyl the way the British poisoned them with opium, the Opium Wars. And then you have South Korea still not going to forget what Japan did them in World War II. And Japan and China will have friction because of what Japan did to China in World War II. This type of rivalry and retribution is still very much a part of the dialogue today.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And I think that we have to be very wary of the Chinese role, whether it's willful or whether it's due to kind of blissful ignorance. A lot of the fentanyl in the United States comes from China, whether it's directly or indirectly. And I think what we've seen in the past is there's been efforts to work on this, but they've never, whether they haven't been implemented seriously enough on the U.S. side, or the Chinese have just been unwilling to actually do what they need to do. We'll see what happens this time. I think we should be very suspicious, not only of any kind of direct shipments into the U.S., but we also have to think, just like we do with tariffs, we also have to think about, what if the Chinese are circumventing our fentanyl cooperation by basically just having unrestricted exports to Mexico, and then all of it is going from Mexico to the United States. Like that is a circumvention of what we're doing. So I think that it's a good positive sign that they're willing to come to the table with this and work with this on this. But we should not underestimate the degree to which the Chinese ultimately don't don't care about this. So they don't care about actually controlling fentanyl production, I think, in a real comprehensive way. And in some ways, this is something that distracts us and hurts us. And that's ultimately good for the Chinese Communist Party.
But we're showing how serious we are by what we're doing in Venezuela and those
That's
ships. Right. And I think they understand, wow, they're dead serious about this. We could tell them exactly what port they're in, exactly what ship they're on, and exactly where they go in Mexico. And if we whipped out the maps, and I think we probably did, and showed them, we need you to stop it. And I think that, we can just expose it. Chris, always great to talk to you. Thanks so much. Hope to have you back again soon.
Thanks a lot, Brian. Appreciate you having me.